Separately, talking about that, do we have any idea what's causing this inflammation in the brain? Blaylock says it's the adjuvants.
Yes, well, I think what my position is that there's some link between the bowel and the brain. What's happening in the bowel in many children is driving inflammation in the brain or changes within the brain. And that's entirely consistent with Dr. Blaylock's thinking that there is some kind of systemic inflammatory response that is driving a problem in the brain.
Well, he says that's what Alzheimer's is just that the brain is just inflamed chronically. And he says, if people will just get off MSG and all the other things that are doing it, before it's too late, they could be all right. Alcohol and other things inflame it, but once it gets to that certain point, it's over.
Yes, it may be that you set up a sort of circular pathology, a circular disease that you can't get out of. Now, I don't think that that's true. I think that there are ways of interrupting it and getting people better.
Oh, no, he was saying that as long as it doesn't go too long. He just said at certain points, there's so much brain damage from it, but he's the brain guy, you're the stomach guy, and I'm the country bumpkin. Doc, we're going to come right back on the other side and get more into this. This is such powerful information, and if you've got time, I want to because we had you on 5 minutes late, I want to go 5 minutes into the next hour. We're going a little bit into overdrive today with Dr. Andrew Wakefield. The book, of course, is Callous Disregard. It's available on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com and better bookstores everywhere. And what are some of the websites we should tell folks to visit? Because written here on my deal, it says callous-disregard.com. Is that the best place to go?
That's one place where the book is for sale, and there's sort of some backstory. Vaccinesafetyfirst.com has just gone up, where journalists can go and get brief soundbite information plus links to the various papers that we're talking about. So that's a good place to go. The National Vaccine Information Center website.
Vaccinesafetyfirst.com, and then they can go there, and when they see Good Morning America saying there's no other studies and that he's a lie, you can see all the big studies and all the concern and all the news about it at vaccinesafetyfirst.com.
Correct.
All right, we've got about 4 minutes left here, then 5 minutes the next segment. You've got the floor for other key points you want to cover, Doctor.
Well, I think one of the key things, Alex, is why do they have to go after me in the first place? Why do they have to try and stop the vaccine safety research that was taking place at the Royal Free Hospital in London? And what I discovered from a whistleblower, a senior government health official in 1997, is that when England introduced the MMR vaccine at the end of the 1980s, they introduced a vaccine which was knowingly unsafe. In the same month that it was licensed in the UK, it was withdrawn in Canada for safety reasons. It was causing meningitis. And he was brought across from Canada to advise the UK government on whether they should introduce this vaccine or not. He said no. They went ahead and introduced it. It was cheaper. It was made by SmithKline Beecham, the local company. Were those the reasons? I don't know. But he advised them not to introduce it, and they did. And what happened was that 4 years later, it had to be withdrawn overnight because just as in England, just as in Canada, just as in Japan and Australia, it was causing meningitis. Children were damaged. And children were damaged at 100 times the rate that was predicted by their surveillance methods, which were inadequate. Now, why was that vaccine ever allowed onto the market? What did happen, and this will ring bells with you, is it changed its name. That's the only thing that changed from Canada to the UK. It went from Trivarix to Pluzarix. So why would you change the name of a product? Same vaccine, different name. It had to be withdrawn because it was causing damage. And he told me he knew that many, many children were injured by that vaccine. Will they ever be compensated? No. Will they ever be acknowledged? No. How did it come about? Because the vaccine manufacturer themselves expressed concern, according to him, about introducing the vaccine. They didn't want to do it because they were having problems in Canada. They had a liability. So the government gave them an indemnity. That's what it appears. The government gave them an indemnity, underwrote their liability.
Well, we have that here with the Vaccine Damage Fund in the U.S.
But there was no, as far as I can gather, there was no ministerial approval for this in the UK.
What about the 2000 meeting that ABC News even covered in 2002, where you have the CDC meeting and the head of it's going, I'd never give a vaccine to my granddaughter. Well, this has damaged millions. We got to cover this up. I mean, those minutes got released by, who's the congressman whose grandson got autism? And then he basically stormed the CDC and got the documents?
Dan Burton.
Yeah, Burton. I mean, that's smoking gun right there.
Yeah, that was an extraordinary situation where they took data which showed there was a clear increased risk, and they cut those data down, they changed them after the fact to produce no risk at all. Now, if I had done that, if I had designed a study, got a result I didn't want, and then after the fact had chopped it and changed it and moved it around, until I got no effect or got an effect, then I would be vilified, just as I've been vilified now. But because a government agency does it, then it's perfectly acceptable.
Well, your study's been replicated in spades. That's why they're coming after you.
That's correct. The bowel disease that we discovered originally has been confirmed by other people. Is there a link between the vaccine and the disease? That work is going on. It needs to be done. It's not going to stop. And the kind of study like the vaccinated, unvaccinated study, those are the sorts of things that need to be done to establish whether or not there is a causal association.
Well, I mean, I'll say this. I've got children. I know there's science in vaccine technology, and I would like to have vaccines that I could trust. But, I mean, the fact they have liability protection in this stream of carnage, you can't trust them. We'll be back in 60 seconds, fourth hour straight ahead. I'm Alex Jones. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the sites, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.